Welcome back, Ram fans. This is Rams Up, your favorite LA Rams podcast. We are proud members of the Fans First Sports Network. That's fansfirstsports.com. You can also follow us on YouTube. Our channel is at LA Rams Up. I'm your host, Mark. You'll hear from my co-host, Tom, on occasion as well. Hey, we're not Rams insiders. We're just longtime fans who love talking about our Los Angeles Rams. Let's get to it. Welcome back, everybody. Episode 361 of Rams Up. And the Rams have found their new defensive coordinator and in-house hire, Chris Shula, the grandson of Hall of Fame coach Don Shula. That's right, Sean McVay has hired his buddy, promoted his buddy, longtime friend who used to live with him, lived with Sean when he made the move out to California, 37-year-old coach, the longest tenured coach with McVay, been with the Rams for 7 years. He's coached inside linebackers, outside linebackers, and defensive backs, passing game coordinator and pass rush coordinator, and he's coached under all the recent Rams DCs, including Wade Phillips, Brandon Staley, and Raheem Morris. So an in-house hire that brings a lot of inside knowledge about how the Rams run this defense, player personnel, and everything else. Picking up where Raheem Morris left off, I suppose. Kind of a surprising hire. A lot of us were expecting Sean McVay to reach outside the building, find a coach that brings something a little bit different to this defense, add to what they already have here, but decided to go with what's familiar, his old buddy Chris Shula. Now, the one thing I wonder is, how does that dynamic work? I don't know if I'd want one of my buddies as a boss, but that's what we have here in Los Angeles. Chris Shula answering to Sean McVay. Of course, that's been the case for 7 years, so they've apparently worked out that dynamic. And what about the legacy of these two guys? Sean McVay's grandfather, John McVay, in the 49er Hall of Fame, one of the most respected executives in NFL history, and Chris Shula, his grandfather, in the Hall of Fame, that great coach, that great career with the Miami Dolphins. So two guys that know how the NFL works for sure. Two young guys too, right? Both still in their 30s. Man, just imagine what they could do together if they stick it out for a decade or so. But you know what's going to happen? Chris Shula will be hired by someone else after the Rams win the Super Bowl next year. Yeah, you heard it here first. Hey, last episode we talked about tight ends in the draft, free agency, and on the Rams roster. We're going to do the same with running backs, starting out with the more benign positions as far as the Rams go, positions where maybe they're kind of set, and then we'll slowly transition into the more interesting position groups. Eventually we'll get to edge rushers and cornerbacks and safeties, and maybe even kickers. Rams need a kicker real bad, but today we're going to talk about running backs. Before we get to that, episode 361, let's talk about a Ram who wore number 61. It was pretty easy for me to settle on Rich Saul, the 8th round pick by the Rams out of Michigan State in 1970, played 166 games for the Rams, anchored some great offensive lines, great rushing attacks led by Rich Saul, 2-time second-team All-Pro, 6-time Pro Bowler, and he came in number 28 on my list of all-time greatest Rams, the one I shared last summer. What a great player, number 61, Rich Saul. So let's talk running back, shall we? Let's take a look at the running backs in the draft, notable unrestricted free agents, and how the Rams roster shakes out. First thing I wanted to mention is my special assistant has been telling me for months here, you know what, just draft a running back every year. These guys get hurt a lot, and you can hit the jackpot in the 5th or 6th round with some great running backs. You always need a running back. You need depth at that position. Just draft one every year. And unfortunately, their careers are typically shorter than most of the other positions. By the time they hit their second contract, man, Not a lot of potential after that. Kind of a sad state for running backs in the NFL, as we've talked about before. But it is what it is. Draft a running back every year. And I went back and looked at the Rams' history of drafting running backs, and you know what? That's pretty much what they've been doing. Since 2012, over the last 12 years, in other words, they have drafted 12 running backs. The only year they didn't draft a running back was 2016. That was the year after they drafted Todd Gurley. Kind of makes sense. And in 2012, they actually drafted 2 running backs, Isaiah Pead and Darrell Richardson. After that, in order, Zach Stacy, Trey Mason, Gurley, fullback Sam Rogers, John Kelly, Darrell Henderson, Cam Akers, Jake Funk, Kyren Williams, and Zach Evans. So there's some highlights there, and then there's some flat-out misses. But yeah, it's not a bad idea to draft a running back every year, and I think the Rams will draft another one this year. Not sure what we have in Zach Evans. Kyren Williams, one of the top running backs in the league, but prone to injury, gotta face it. Rams will probably draft a running back and probably bring back one of their own free agents, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Their current roster, Kyren Williams and Zach Evans, exclusive rights, free agent Ronnie Rivers, and unrestricted free agent Royce Freeman. And you know what? They got to bring back Ronnie Rivers, right? And if they do, maybe they're okay at that position. Williams, Evans, and Rivers. Add a guy for the practice squad or maybe a 4th running back. Not sure it's going to be Freeman, though. Notable unrestricted free agents. You know, there's a bunch of really productive guys out there. The 4 guys at the top, Rams have no shot at, and I don't think it'd be a wise use of their cap space anyways. Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, and Austin Eckler. Hey, would I want any one of these guys on my roster? Sure, but not at the price they're going to be demanding. Actually, I'm not sure about Eckler. He did not look good in 2023. Tony Pollard, Gus Edwards. One guy that's kind of intriguing, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's not even 25 years old yet. And when the Chiefs drafted him, I thought, man, what a steal. This guy is going to light up the NFL. And early in his career, he did. I think he had a really big first game his rookie year. But since then, hasn't really got much done. Not even the starter there. And if you can't produce for Andy Reid, man, maybe he's not a good direction to go, but I've always liked him. Another intriguing guy, DeAndre Swift, but again, I don't think the Rams are going to take a look at any of these guys, but they will draft a running back. Let's take a look at the top prospects, and you know what? Where these guys go, it's all over the place right now, and it's going to change a lot. Going with CBS Sports rankings at this point. Some of the other sites I checked did not align with this at all, but hey, this is what I'm going to roll with for this episode. The top running back, Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin. He's a big guy, 6'2", 245. If you go by his overall ranking, probably late in the 2nd round. Yeah, not a really good running back group. I don't think anyone's going in the 1st round. Next up, maybe late 2nd, early 3rd, Bucky Irving out of Oregon, 5'10", 195. He's an exciting prospect. Can go the distance anytime he touches the ball. A few guys that'll go in the 3rd round. Jonathan Brooks out of Texas, Will Shipley out of Clemson, Audric Estime out of Notre Dame, 5'11", 227. He's a guy I like. And then we saw Blake Corum out of Michigan in the college football championship game, had a big game, 5'8", 213. According to CBS Sports, he could last into the 4th round. It's probably not going to happen, though. Michael Wiley out of Arizona, Jabari Small out of Tennessee, and then just some other guys later in the draft, Ray Davis, Trey Benson, Jason McClellan, and Dylan Lobby. Now, I've seen Trey Benson go pretty high in the draft. CBS Sports has him as the number 144th prospect overall. So like I say, inconsistent rankings across the internet at this point. We'll take a look at these rankings closer to the draft and rack and stack them once again. But that's how we view them right now. So what's my conclusion as far as the Rams' outlook at the running back position? Well, we have Kyren Williams as a starter, but gets banged up a lot. What do we know about Zach Evans? 5'11", 202. He has all the metrics to be a great NFL running back. Just don't know what we have, and maybe someone inside that Rams clubhouse knows. I certainly don't. I was hoping he'd get some carries, maybe in that Week 18 game against the 49ers. I love Bucky Irving out of Oregon, but you'd have to grab him in the second round. And this is what I think is going to happen. There will be 0 running backs taken in the first round. In fact, there will be 0 running backs taken when the Rams make their current second round pick. But 5 could go between that pick and the Rams' third round pick. So you want to get one of those top 5 guys. Might not happen if you wait to the third round pick, but that's what the Rams are going to do. They're not going to use one of their top 2 picks on a running back, that's for sure. Blake Corum could last until the 5th round, according to this. At this point, that might be hard to pass on, but there's some other guys that are really enticing. Michael Wiley, the Arizona running back, he's more of a zone fit, but as a receiver out of the backfield, wow, this guy, elite route running, plus elite athleticism. Play the tape on him. You'll be impressed. It's pretty enticing. Jabari Small, the running back out of Tennessee, just a really good all-round back, picks up tough yards, good pass blocker, and a good receiver. He's a guy that could be had as late as the 5th round as well. If you're looking to play smash mouth physical football, Rams have been leaning towards that a little bit, right? Man, look no further than this guy out of Notre Dame, Audric Estime. We hit gold with Kyren Williams out of Notre Dame. Could we do it again? Play the tape on this guy. Man, he will get the physical tough yards. And then maybe available as late as a 6th round, Trey Benson out of Florida State. Another bigger back, 6'1", 223. Downhill runner, fits this duo running style the Rams are leaning towards. And he also has good hands to get him involved in the passing game. Again, a lot of these guys are going to move up and down as far as their rankings are, especially Benson. I think he could end up being in the top 4 or 5 running backs here. Who knows? Too early to tell. Trying to take a snapshot of what the Rams might be thinking at running back, and this is what I think they will do. Kyren Williams will come back as a starter. That's a no-brainer. Zach Evans will obviously be on this roster, but the Rams will certainly retain exclusive rights free agent Ronnie Rivers. Rivers proved you can bring him in, give Kyren Williams a breather, and hardly miss a beat. And then you got Evans as the third back. They're not going to sign any of these free agent running backs. I think they're going to use a late round pick on a running back. Now, what could happen is if the Rams end up only having 7 or 8 picks, if they go for quality, maybe trade a few picks to move up in the draft, in that case, they're probably not going to use one of those 7 picks on a running back, and they'll bring in a low-level free agent running back. Bring Royce Freeman back, maybe. There's a lot of guys they could take a look at. J.K. Dobbins, Matt Breida, Rashad Penny, bring him back to California, A.J. Dillon, Jerick McKinnon, Latavius Murray. Like I said, there's a lot of mid-level running backs available. But the only scenario they're going to sign one of these guys is if they try to move up in the draft a bit at some point, lose a couple of picks, left with only 7 or 8 picks, then they go chase one of these free agents. Certainly not going to spend a high pick on our running back, though. Not when you have Kyren Williams and Ronnie Rivers in the house. That's my take on running backs here in early February. We'll revisit this later on in the spring as the draft gets closer, and we're certainly going to have a roundtable dedicated to the NFL draft, probably 2 or 3 of them. Hey, if there's a running back in the draft that you like or a free agent, send us an email, drop us a note. Hey, we'll maybe even have you on the show to make your case for the player you like. That's going to do it for this episode. Remember, you can reach us at ramsuppodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget about our YouTube channel. Our handle is at laramsup.com. Till next time, keep the horns up, stay safe, and have fun out there.